Right, hopefully we're live. Bismillah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 4 of Bedo's Media. That's right. We're back after much demand, a lot of demand. I'll blow my own trumpet.
Why not? Someone else is going to blow it.
after exactly a year, really. So yeah, this is the platform where we talk about what you don't want to be talked about, but you're thinking it. So welcome back. And today's topic is going to be something along the lines of what we usually discuss. So our usual catchphrase is business, banter, and beyond. So sometimes we talk about business, sometimes we talk or we have a bit of banter, and sometimes we actually go beyond, way beyond.
Way
I
beyond.
don't know whether today is going to be just banter or beyond, but we'll be talking about the king and I straight after this. We made it. We made it. Now, if you can see us and if you can hear us, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment of some kind. We made it after a year and some technological challenges throughout these last couple of weeks. But we're here now. We're here. And many thanks, first of all, to everybody who's been tuning in or who's been throwing us messages and sending us a lot of love and telling us that they've missed us and they want to get back into these conversations. Now, these conversations, as you know, are not orthodox conversations. These are usually conversations which people are thinking about, but they don't want to say anything. So that's us. We talk on your behalf. We give our own little ramblings. We want to share your views. We'd like to hear your views as well. So whilst we're having these conversations and in our own little minds, whatever we're thinking or concocting up, maybe we're way off the mark. I don't know. Maybe we're way off the mark. Maybe we don't even know what we're talking about. But that's a part of the learning journey. Hopefully, with a vast amount of connections, the vast amount of connections that we have, and the number of people who always log in, they talk to us, they share their views. Make sure you do that. Make sure you put a comment in to tell us what you're thinking. So today's topic, without further ado, oh, by the way, that's me again, Majid Waris, one of your hosts, and the other one is Mr. Controversial Ali. He says controversial, but we all know he's controversial. Him and his views are controversial.
Sometimes.
Come on,
Sometimes.
just not sometimes. You know, it's not just sometimes. You know what? I got to get used to some of this new setup because we have some really awesome sounds that come through here. There we go. Somebody says something clever. Anyway, today's topic is titled "The King and I." Now, Ali, you decided that this would be a good title for today's topic. I'm not sure we want to constrain our conversation just to the
Mm.
king and I, because there's so much that's going on in the background. We were going to be broadcasting this particular segment the day after the Queen had been buried. So,
Yep.
well, we don't know whether she was technically buried that day because apparently they go through so many different rituals and things. But there were questions which arose around that time. Well, now the Queen, who we had for so many years, who was the symbol of the Commonwealth or the United Kingdom, is no longer around. The question a lot of people were asking and were being shut down on was, well, why do we need the monarch now anyway?
Yeah.
We had a monarch for so long. In fact, I remember there were people who were very respectfully protesting around that time in London and in Scotland. and they had like just a placard to say "Not my king"
Oh, at the time of
at the
the.
time of the
Okay.
yeah. So there were people who weren't. I don't know whether you could exactly call them anti-monarchy, but they just questioned the whole thing surrounding the purpose of having a monarchy and who to have in that place. Did you come across that there was a barrister as well in London who was on the news, who was sharing his story about why, he was politely asked to move on.
Okay. No, I didn't hear about that particular story, but I think the question is very valid.
Mm,
Why do we need a monarchy? And this is something that I've wondered for quite some time now. Um, and if I'm honest, I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing. Throughout the UK, a lot of
mm,
people um, don't quite understand why or what purpose that the royal family serve us or
mm,
their people, their subjects, whatever. Um, and I get that some people like the idea of a monarchy or having a queen or a king or, the royals and the princes and the princesses, but it's a very valid question. I personally, call it controversial, call it whatever, I don't think they're needed.
yeah, it's an interesting one because I'm of surprisingly of the same opinion because we differ a lot on a lot of things. But I can if I'm having a conversation, because I have had conversations with people from different generations on this particular topic. My contentions, because you've got to have contentions, you have to have reasons why you don't think there's a need for a monarchy, and you have to
Mm.
have reasons why you do think there's a need for a monarchy. So on both sides of the camp, there's got to be some kind of reasons, right? Um,
Doesn't the emphasis more fall on the reasons why you do think
yeah,
you need a monarchy? It's
yeah,
not. I mean, I know you say you've got to have reasons for both, but I don't know if I'm to. I'm not comparing them to a purchase, but I'm just saying if I was to be making a purchase or thinking of, or I don't know, buying into a service or anything,
mm,
I would need a good reason to do it.
mm,
I would good reason to buy it, good reason to sort of partake in it.
hmm,
I don't need a good reason to not.
yeah,
Do you understand?
yeah,
Um, and I think we're at that point now, as a people, as a nation, where we need to know what purpose they serve and how they serve us. Because, I mean, traditionally speaking,
well, they get paid for the service
handsomely,
over a
yeah,
hundred million pounds a year. I was reading, if you go, there's a Royals website, right?
okay,
The Royals, I think, something to do with the Royals itself, right? And on there they publish their finances and what the funds were and all sorts of stuff. And I was reading another article just yesterday where it said that this last financial year, 2020 to 2021, the Royals, and I don't know who they actually incorporated in that. I think it's the main family, which the Queen and her elected members who carry out duties on her behalf would include. It was over £100 million. I mean, sometimes a trip would cost around £250,000.
a trip.
A trip. I think that was Prince William and his wife Kate. They went to some other country, and that trip alone cost £250,000. So when you put things into context, yes, there's a financial element, right? That the royals, having royals in a monarchy in place, there's a cost associated with that. Now, some people have argued there are benefits as well. Some are more emotional benefits than there are anything else. There's some people who don't know any different to having some kind of a monarchy. Some would argue that, okay, when you've got a monarchy, at least you've got someone above the parliamentarians or the parliament or whatever. See, my contention with that argument is that in the legal system, the monarchs have given up their rights. Even when
Yeah.
King Charles III was sworn in, he gave up his rights, his constitutional rights, to play a role within the significant elements of running the country, right?
Mm.
So, for example, when there was this, whenever we have some of these issues, like we have the war in Iraq, for example, right? Or we have, as a country, we decide to have military intervention somewhere. The queen or the monarch, the reigning monarch, they at the role where they pass a bill or a law.
Yeah, they'd sign
And
something off. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you think about, I don't know if you watched any clips of when King Charles was sworn in, and he swore to protect, or the Protestant Church, or the religion of Christianity, and the Church of Scotland or Edinburgh, whichever one it was. A lot of the laws which have been passed, or not a lot, well, some of the laws which have been passed, even if they disagreed with them, they would sign them off. So a bill gets passed through the House of Commons, then it goes through to the House of Lords. They debate it as well, and if they want to change any wordings, it goes back to the Commons. Otherwise, if they pass it, then it goes for royal assent, and then that's when you get the signature from the monarch to say, yeah, it's legally enforced now, right? So even if, let's just say, certain laws which may contradict their own faith and beliefs, like, I don't know, homosexuality, for example, it contradicts Christian, Orthodox Christian beliefs, yeah? They'll sign it off because it's just a service that they're providing, irrespective of whether they agree or disagree. I've not known, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know any better, which you do probably. I don't know of any law which the monarch has declined to sign off. Doesn't matter what it is. They may have their personal opinion or views on things, like the Queen apparently had her views on Brexit, and she didn't want to leave the Brexit apparently. But whatever it is, the monarchs will sign it off. So they get paid to sign stuff off, and they don't have any constitutional power. So for me, that's like, hang on, if the Queen signed that off, with respect, she has blood on her hands. What if she didn't sign it?
This is the thing, though. I mean, let's say you've got a king of a country or a queen. Yeah, you've got a royal family. What is their absolute purpose? When they would have been established at some point, go back 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, whatever, in history, in summary, in short, they're there to serve the people.
Yeah.
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 That's how I understand
I suppose,
it.
but if you don't go through, like, a microscopic lens, and if you're just looking at a wide angle lens to see what's their purpose, what are they there for, then you say
very, very basically. I mean, we're over summarizing, but simply speaking, they're there to serve the people who are their people. Yeah, because if the king can own all of the land, which he does,
in theory, they own England.
They own
we
England.
Don't even own our houses. Even if you owned property,
so
you're leasing for 999 years or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So if England goes to war, which they don't go to war as much as they go to sort of, invade and conquer and colonize and all of that stuff, but they go and loot other countries. Yeah. It's the soldiers that go. They're the ones on the front lines. They're the one dying. They're the one physically, carrying out the robbery and the theft and everything. And they bring it back. Who owns it? Whose wealth is it? It's not distributed. It's then said, this belongs to the royal family. The Kohinoor is all but one example.
Yeah. In fact, I saw an image somewhere where everything, like on that crown, there were certain different things which they were pointing at different countries where they were taken from. Stolen from.
It is stolen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So surely the role of the king or the queen or the royals is to then distribute that wealth to their people, to the point where there's nobody left hungry or homeless or in such a state. That's not the case. Perhaps it was once upon a time. It's not now. It hasn't been for a very long time, as far as I can remember. And the listeners, the viewers, they may argue as far as back as they can also remember.
Mm,
It hasn't been the Queen's or the King's priority to make sure every single one of their people are okay
mm,
above the breadline.
mm.
My understanding of a king or a queen would be that,
Yeah.
yeah, to
Okay.
start with. That's not happening. You know, doesn't matter how much of the world was, taken over or looted or whatever, however you want to call it. Yeah, let's say we took democracy to a lot of places,
Mm. Yeah.
and we brought back treasures.
Mm,
We didn't bring back treasures.
mm.
We're not better off for it. We didn't get anything for it. The country's not. I can't even say the country is better off for it, because then it would have gone to the people. It hasn't, and it continues to be like that. So when there's an argument of, okay, but the royal family, contribute to the economy, or they do this, or they're not really.
Mm,
Like all the land and the castles and the parks and the reserves and everything that they own.
mm,
Hang on a second. What do you mean own? How do you own it? And
mm.
it's based on that. I think they're just not needed. They don't serve us, and they don't serve a purpose, and they haven't done. And this isn't specifically for the British royal family. I think this could be applied in a lot of places wherever they still have monarchs. Is that if they're not there for the people? I mean, we're going across continents, but if we go over to Saudi and stuff,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people listening that would say, "Oh, what about the Saudi royals?"
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't like them or agree with them any more than I do the British royal family.
Mm,
It's nothing to do with religion or race or creed or anything like that, or any kind of nationalism, loyalty, patriotism. All of that is out the window. They either serve or they don't. I genuinely think they don't.
yeah. I think there's I think every monarchy can be scrutinized as to what they're
Yeah.
actually doing. I mean, you've got I mean, my politics or geopolitics is quite weak in that regard anyway, generally. But whenever you look at any country which has a monarchy, whether it's Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, Jordan has a monarchy, right? You got the king of
Yeah.
Jordan, yeah.
Yeah.
I think some might be doing a reasonably good job and some might not be. Question is, is having a monarchy, does it have more positives than it does negatives in the grand scheme of things? Or does it even serve a purpose, like you put it, right? Now, because there's always an argument, we don't even need a monarchy, right? You can say that point blank. Then I think people would consider, what's the alternative? Like in America, they have a president over their senates and stuff, right? Same with Pakistan, right? You've got their democratic parties and the commons and whatever. Then you've got the prime minister. Then you have a president. And again, I think when you go down that route, then you're kind of risking going into some kind of a dictatorship. So I think even democracy itself, the model of democracy, is questionable. I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine. We went out for dinner, and we used to work together. And the question I posed was, the democratic system that we have today, is it even working? If you think about one man or woman, one vote, then how effective is that really? Should there not be a qualified vote? Like, if certain people have certain a certain level of aptitude or qualifications or experience or whatever, like I think in the Islamic system, like the Sharia, they have the voting in terms of who is going to lead depends on your qualifications and understanding of the whole system of that kind of leadership. So that's as an example. It doesn't have to be, we don't just have to use that, but generally speaking, if you qualify votes, surely that's going to have to be more effective than unqualified votes, right? because if you've got people, every single person who's of a certain age is, eligible to vote.
And that's counted equally.
That's counted
You could have
equally.
somebody who understands the situation, the economy, the country, the politics of it, all of it,
Yeah.
and their vote is equivalent to somebody, who watches Jeremy Kyle for educational purposes.
Well, yeah.
There could be a better system, of course there could.
Yeah.
But I think, 2022, there's so many things that are just, in this country particularly, I know across the world, okay, it is what it is, but I've lived here pretty much all of my life, so I know.
Have you? I never have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I've moved a little bit further down south, but the UK has always been my home.
Yeah. Not specifically England, though.
Not specifically England, no.
Okay.
I'm a bit like the Queen. We have that in common.
You have that
in
common, a bit of the Scottish
we like that
eyes in you. Yeah.
But there's just so many things that just don't seem to work or don't seem to fit, and are we kind of being held back because of nostalgia, or just
this is it. I was talking to this elderly gentleman who comes and picks his grandson up from school on the school run, and we have discussions on all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And one of the things we were talking about was just this. And he said, look, I'm not a monarchist, but I think it's great having someone like that there for consistency and all that kind of stuff. Someone there. And I see where it's coming from, but I didn't quite buy it because,
Bro,
what's consistency?
If that's the case,
you can have a negative consistency.
Yeah, get a DVD set. Do you know what I mean? Put a picture on your wall, like get a mantelpiece, like normal people.
Yeah.
But to pay hundreds of millions to have this firm in place.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's a firm which is being funded to represent the crown and carry out, what would you call them? Could you even call them diplomatic duties? To represent.
I could call them a whole bunch of
things.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because, well, it's not a tricky one. I know what my views are, and we know what your views are, and I find it difficult to justify paying a family £100 million a year when we have families living under the breadline. Children going to school without breakfast and a proper meal. When we have families who are needing financial support, but they have to jump through so many loopholes to even be seen and recognized as somebody who is, in inverted commas, needy of certain finances. So yeah, I mean, look, even when the Queen passed away, most people were like a lot of people I saw who were getting really emotional and stuff, and they shut down anybody who was wanting to criticize the monarchy. You see, I think the people who were criticizing were criticizing the monarchy as a political figure and not her personally and her personal standing. Because if you think about it, all these people who were getting emotional, how many of them do you think actually knew her as a person? Right, a very tiny, minuscule number of people will have known her.
You could say none. It could be argued none.
Yeah, in comparison, or comparatively speaking, little to nobody.
Yeah.
If anybody did know her, they knew her as the public figure, not her personally. Yeah, you got glimpses of her personal life, her on what she was like as a personality to a certain degree, but they are brought up in a way that they have to show themselves up in a certain way. They have to show themselves in a certain way. They have to dress in a certain way. They have to talk in a certain way, eat in a certain way, greet in a certain way, and all sorts of stuff, right? So the people who actually knew her, of little to very, very little number of handful of people, most people around the country. Somebody was saying, "Oh, I'm feeling so sad and stressed out." And I said, "But why are you feeling stressed out?" Well, the Queen's passed away. I go, with respect, did you know her?
How are you related?
So it was a case of, well, I respect her as another fellow human being who's lost a life. She's
Yeah.
left a family behind. Her
Absolutely. Yeah.
children are going to grieve. Her grandchildren are going to grieve. Her relatives are going to grieve. Yeah, we understand that, but from a personal attachment, I think it's like you said earlier. It's the nostalgia, isn't it? Having that same person on your stamps, on your notes, on your coins, and the same face there. There's going to be that bit of a connection, but no one's ever questioned the existence of that institution or firm. Whether well, when I say nobody, I say a very limited number of people actually question it. So people think about it, but they won't talk about it. Again, that's what we're here to do at Beardos Media. We do that for you. We get ourselves into trouble for you, but we question things and we voice people's thoughts, which they don't want to talk about in public because they're fear of social persecution of some kind. But yeah, so those people who were criticizing her were being shut down. Oh, shut up! Have some respect. The Queen's died, and she's died. Well, I think most people who are talking or criticizing, I think now is the time to talk, because you're criticizing somebody who you knew as a political figure, not personally. No one's talking about her choice in clothes. No one's talking about her choice in hairstyles or whatever. The media threw a wobbly when Charles was still a prince, and he wanted to learn Arabic because he wanted to understand the Quran and Islam. He got a lot of flack for it.
Okay.
Yeah, he did a speech, and and he got a lot of criticism from the right-wing media for it.
But then, where's the respect then?
Respect for who?
So you can't criticize the.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But look, I think it comes down to nostalgia, and it comes down to people see the royals as one of their own celebrities. Yeah. They are celebrities, aren't they? And that's what it is that if you've grown up watching a certain celebrity and you've kind of known of them, or you see them on, is it Christmas Day? She used to come on TV and do her thing.
Do a speech,
And, whenever there was an event, or you have things like Jubilees and, all of this stuff, it becomes a part of your life.
Well, yeah, and people look forward to that, sit in front of the TV, watch what she's got to say.
So I think now
it's a ritualistic thing.
It is a ritualistic
thing. You know what, Ali? It's more than a ritualistic thing, because for a lot of people, it becomes I think the monarchy is almost like a deity in some way.
It's not far off, is it?
Well, think about if you watch the final moments of when her casket was lowered down into the ground on her day, on that last day, the priest who was speaking the final words referred to her as the Most High, the Most Gracious, or something like that. And I thought, wow, subhanallah, that in Islam, that is polytheism, because the Most High or the Most Gracious or attributes you refer to as the Creator, for the Creator. So there is an element of a religion. I think it becomes like a religious. There's a certain air of religiosity. How do you say that word?
It's a word now.
Yeah. And yeah, you have people talking about her like she is or she was. Don't no disrespect to her as an individual, as a human being, but let's call it what it is. When people revere other human beings like that, then you've got to think about, hang on, where is this actually going? And then people lack the critical thinking. They let emotions override, what they're actually thinking, and then they get emotionally involved. And the amount of coverage, yes, I get it. She's the Queen, and there are people who are already going through mental health issues, right? And they don't want to see, stuff like that constantly. They might be going through their own grief, but that one individual's grief, or the grief relating to that one individual's parting, overtook the whole world or the whole nation's grief. That I find an imbalance with.
If you have a ruler, which they're rulers, aren't they?
Well, no,
do you know what I mean?
Symbolic.
Yeah, symbolic. But when you have a ruler of any people, and this person sleeps on silk sheets on a solid gold bed, and has their banana peeled for them, and absolutely everything. And there's a palace, and there's gardens, and there's just every lavish luxury you can think of. And then outside the gates of that palace is somebody starving in the cold, unable to shelter, unable to feed themselves or their children. Something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something is seriously, seriously wrong.
Yeah.
That a ruler of a people can detach themselves from that reality.
But this is what I'm saying. The monarch have given up their rights as rulers. They're there only symbolically. The question is, if you or I were in that kind of a position where a final stamp from us would seal or confirm that a bill is passed and it has royal ascension and it becomes the law. If it went against my own values, then why would I still do it? Well, over what? It's then over money, isn't it? If you bring it down to the ground, if you get down to the nuts and crannies of it, if I am signing a piece of law which needs my ascension, my royal stamp to make it legal for this law to be passed, even if it goes against my values, I've just sold my soul.
Yeah.
That's what it is. What else can it be? If it goes against my values, if it goes against my beliefs, and I've been given a law, it's gone through the House of Commons, gone through the House of Lords, come for royal ascension, I'm the king. I'll stamp it. For why? If I don't stamp it, well, what am I doing? I'm risking losing the crown. And this is what they can't do. They can't get rid of that material wealth.
See, that's interesting, because the way that this country is going and has been going for a number of years is so far off the track of the Church of England.
Yeah.
Or even Christianity
In general.
in any form, shape, way. Christianity is this way, and we are veering
a different way.
Completely different way. So where does the royal family, where do the royals, where does the king stand in this? Does he, break off from the church? Or does he put a stop to, whichever direction that the powers that be are looking to take things? You can't have it both ways. And at the moment, they're having it both ways. Yeah. They're still part of the church, and they're still, leading the country, and the country is still a Christian country with Christian rulers, and, but LGBT.
Yeah, that goes completely against Christianity.
Against Christianity. It's not even about preference or freedom of expression or each to their own. It is literally against.
Well, this is what I'm saying. In terms of values, there are things in this country which are being introduced, and they need the royal decree to pass, and they'll pass it because they get paid for it. Now, if I had any conscience, right now, again, with the utmost respect, if I had a conscience and I'm being asked to sign off to go to war and ground and pound, as they say in MMA, another country, and I know women, children, the elderly are going to be a lot of civilian casualties, and I still sign it off for the fear of what? For the fear of losing my position. Then I've got blood on my hands.
And
I've sold my soul. I've sold my values. They mean nothing.
And we probably don't want to go into too much of the Queen's. It was Elizabeth, right? I was having a blank moment. Into her history, but she's obviously no longer with us. But she had a lot of blood on her hands. A lot. And I think people are well within the right okay, it was a time of mourning and it was respect. And I, personally, I think Charles and all of these guys should have had a little bit more time to just mourn,
Mm.
because I think was it the day after she passed away or something? He had to come and do like a speech or be sworn in or
He
whatever.
had to address so many different
It you
people
know
throughout those days,
I feel like that
and
could have waited.
that was a political move. Like it was a political duty.
Yeah,
So if you think about it, in one sense, I feel sorry for them
I do.
because look, they're in the public eye, the royal family, right? They have this long tradition of well, a lot of people claim that they're not even all kind of English. Their heritage comes from Germany.
Germany, yeah.
In fact, I think it was what was the Queen's husband's name?
Philip.
Philip. Philip's sisters weren't even allowed at their wedding because they had some ties with what was it, the German, or was it the Russians or something? Some kind of secret service apparently. So they have a German or Russian, I think it's German
It's
lineage.
German, yeah.
Yeah, lineage, and they're not even purely English as they proudly they are proudly celebrated. So you think about it and you think, well, how can you live a life of, because some people say, look, they have so many duties, they carry out so many duties. You know how many, they have hundreds of duties that they have to carry out. They don't even have a private life. And I feel sorry for them. As a royal family, I feel sorry for them. I don't blame Harry for leaving this firm. I don't blame him for saying, "Ta-ra, I'm off."
Well, this is what I couldn't understand about Elizabeth herself.
Although I would have done things differently, I'd have stayed there trying to make changes. But again, maybe
Yeah.
they're too powerful for that.
I think perhaps he knows something that we don't.
Yeah.
And the same with his wife. She obviously knows something that we don't. And perhaps some of those things she can't say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me because every organization, every sort of closed off, cartel or whatever you want to call it, has those kind of shadows or what did they call them? Something in the closet, is it?
Yeah,
Cobwebs or skeletons in the
Yeah.
closet. That's it. Don't know where I got cobwebs from.
Oh man, you're turning into a skeleton yourself on this diet. You should know more about skeletons. By the way, in one of our episodes, we will be talking about a specific diet that we're trialing. Just to give you a, have you weighed yourself?
I was supposed to today. I haven't.
How much do you know? Of that you've lost?
Okay, so since I've been on it,
Yeah.
Quite comfortably. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Easily 12, 13 kilos.
12 to 13 kilos.
Yes.
And that's within like 2 months, right?
That's is that how long it's been? Maybe just over 2 months. Yeah.
Just over 2 months.
Yeah.
I can believe that because I lost 4 kilos in the last 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks.
Yeah. I'm averaging a kilo a week at the moment.
Which is great going, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we call it a diet, but I don't think it's a diet.
Yeah. But we're not going to tell you much about it because it's something we're going to discuss in one of our future podcast episodes, inshallah. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you stay tuned and subscribe. So sorry, we were talking about skeletons in the closet.
Skeletons in the closet, but my mind just went to, because we haven't done this for a year. Yeah, we've been away from Barbados, and we've not. In that 1 year, the world has changed so much that we're not even going to be able to cover in this one podcast. And you know what? We're not going to try to. We're going to do it over the coming podcasts. But where was I? Completely gone blank.
We were talking about skeletons in the closet.
Skeletons in the closet. Yeah, trying to stay inside a firm and make changes, very difficult. Very difficult.
Talking about skeletons in the closet, forget skeletons. Some things are out in the open, they're in public, aren't they? Right? Let me just. I screenshotted this from a newspaper where what was. Sorry, I asked you this. Was it Philip?
Yes.
Yeah, he was such one of those kind of bit of Jack the Lad, really, wasn't he?
He was a bit more than Jack the Lad.
The way he spoke, he didn't give a crap about. Wait, 1 second. Which one is it? There's actually a. He's a bit of a.
You can't say that now. He's not here.
No. I'm not. I'm just joking. I just needed to play those sound pads just to give him a try. But you know what? He was a character. I'll tell you why I screenshotted this. Some of the things that he said in
Yeah.
public, right? So, he said something like British women can't cook. During the 1981 recession, he said everybody was saying we must have more leisure. Now they are complaining they are unemployed. Right? He went to Kenya after accepting a small gift from a local woman. He said to her, you are a woman, aren't you?"
Wow.
Right? Check this out. So he was talking to a group of British students during a royal visit to China, and he says, "If you stay here much longer, you'll all be slitty eyed." Right? This is the kind of
Philip, come on,
no,
Philip.
seriously. This is the kind of he used
Yeah,
to say.
well, actually, I thought it was dubbed at first. But I think he'd gone to one of these African sort of tribal regions,
Mm.
and he was addressing some of the locals, and he just looked at them and said, "Do you guys still throw spears at each other?"
Yeah, actually, it's here. Yeah, so he questioned an Aboriginal Australian during a visit, and he
Australia.
said, "Still throwing spears?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He went to Edinburgh, right?
But I think he's one of the people they had to really protect and censor a lot.
He went to Edinburgh, right? And referring to an old-fashioned fuse box in a factory, he says, "It looks as if it was put in by an Indian." Right? So
Probably
this
was.
is the kind of stuff yeah, probably was. This is the kind of stuff he says in public. And you can argue, oh, he wears his heart on his sleeve and he he's off the cuff all the time. People laugh about it, right? To cover it. Imagine anybody else saying something like that, right?
Do you know what it is? He wasn't born like that. Yeah, he wasn't just, a klutz or whatever you want to call it. He grew up with that kind of culture.
Mm,
Yeah. We can pretend that the royal family is not racist,
mhm.
but the truth is they were super racist. Yeah. And the UK as a whole has gone through a lot of changes because he's so disconnected from whatever is going on and the world in general. He's just not got with the times, and he
Yeah.
hasn't changed and adapted, and things are still
Well, he's
changing.
gone now.
He's
You're still referring to him as if he's still here.
Oh, okay. He's not. As far as I know, I don't know.
He can't change and adapt now.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is. He was brought up, with a lot of racism and all this kind of stuff and superiority, and it just kind of stuck with him a lot longer than perhaps somebody who was more connected,
Mm,
with the people and stuff. And this is the problem: is that there's a big disconnect.
mm,
If they were slightly better off than the average person or the lowest of low people in their nation,
mm,
you'd be like, still not right. Like they should, make sure that everybody's got a chadar or a blanket or a
mm,
soup or something.
mm.
And then, but they weren't even that. It's just, parallel universes. It's ridiculous. The gap between them and the average or the working class or the unemployed or the elderly. There's people, the Queen's age or around about her age who can't afford to heat their homes today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're having to make that difficult choice between, well, do we switch the heater on or do we buy something to eat?
Or do we eat?
Yeah.
And
Well, they don't matter. They're subjects.
Yeah. And out of respect, they should stay quiet and out of the way. And
see, this is the dichotomy of beliefs, which I think really needs to be knuckled down on, because you've got on one hand a symbolism which is of royalty, and on the other hand subjects which onto which they actually don't really have any control, right? So if you're going to take control away from a monarchy in exchange for lots of money to go and fulfill duties, again, this is why I feel sorry for them, because they don't really have a private life of their own.
No, and I was a bit surprised that the Queen never actually retired. I don't know what the official definition for it is, but she
Mm.
never sort of, like her mom gave
Mm.
up her duties at a fairly reasonable age, right? And passed it on to Elizabeth.
No,
But
it was her dad who died, and then Elizabeth took over.
was it?
Yeah,
Okay. Is that what happened?
yeah.
Okay.
So her Taya,
The Queen Mother,
her dad's brother,
yeah,
was the king,
right.
and then he wanted to marry somebody who had already been divorced, which wasn't allowed in the according to the church.
Yes. Okay.
So he gave up the throne to go and live a life of his own. Then her dad ended up getting becoming the king,
Right.
and then her dad died. She so easily may not have even been the queen had her uncle continued and stayed on the throne.
But she never gave it up. She never relinquished,
Mm.
the throne and stuff, and said, "Okay, Charles, here you go. I'm old now, but then you take over." I think he's in his 70s.
Can they do that though?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I
Can
don't
you
know.
not?
I don't know. But let's just say, in theory, that they could. That's a good question.
If they
Why did she?
can, I think Charles should do it.
And give it to William straight
I
away.
think so. It would make so much more sense.
Man, the guys waited for 73 years to become
For what,
76
though?
years.
You know what?
You know what I mean? Let him have his jollies,
You know
man.
what it is? I feel
Let him get his head printed on the notes and the stamps and everything. Apparently that's going to cost billions of pounds, just because even the smallest of things, like you got stamps, you got coins, you got notes. In the next 2 years, you've got even passports have to be changed because it says Her Royal
Her
Highness,
Majesty,
and they have to change the letter boxes, the red letter boxes, all sorts of things. The stamps that they've got to change. It's constant.
absolutely needless.
Well, this is what I'm saying. £100 million is one thing as an expense a year, but then you've got to spend billions and billions of pounds to make the changes for the new. Oh yeah, it's a one-off. Oh, what the hell, man?
Is it though? Because it's bichare ne ek lat ka baraja.
Exactly,
He's in his
exactly.
70s, late 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no need. The economy is such. The average person is such. So you know what? Even people who don't think of themselves as on the breadline are struggling. You could have a perfectly reasonable job. You could be a teacher.
Yeah.
Or in education or whatever, in a respectable 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
You are struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people
to then spend millions, which may even go into billions into rebranding, because that's all it is.
Yes, exactly what
Do you know what I mean? It's
you're rebranding.
The firm is just rebranding.
Yeah.
For something that may last a year or 2 or 5 or 10. Because what is he, 77?
76.
Yeah. Let's say he does live to 100. If he doesn't, it's 20 years at best. And then again, billions.
Yeah.
Why? Who needs it?
Well, apparently we do. So yeah, it's an overall, it's a good question, because again, like you, we don't always agree on stuff. There's something I do agree with. I think there's something that people were talking about. People were being questioned upon. People were being shut down on questioning having a monarchy, like they'd committed blasphemy, right? Or committed a crime. And this is why I say having a monarchy is almost like it's a religion of its own. They're revered and almost like worshipped to some degree by some people, and I just can't understand it personally. I just don't understand it. I mean, I could be way off the mark here, but personally, I don't think we need a monarchy. I think there could be other mechanisms. Be a bit innovative about what kind of mechanisms you put into place to make the parliament or hold the parliament to account, or the prime minister to account, not a president. And maybe think of something else. Maybe a committee of people from different backgrounds and qualifications. I don't know. If you want to be innovative and pride yourself on ourselves on innovation, let's do that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't cost as much as funding a monarchy.
I think accountability went out the window long ago. When
do you think that actually happened?
Before me. Way before me. I've never seen any kind of accountability. But you're right. I think now, okay, out of respect, let them mourn and everything. That's fine. Maybe don't bring it up on the day of the funeral or the procession or whatever the
Mm,
situations they had going on. You said there was, placards and stuff. But then when do you? Because that's when the subject is being spoke about. That's when the topic is hot. That's when you're going to get the attention, and get that awareness. But yeah, I think just knock it on its head.
mm,
I think everything that this country has done and achieved and inherited should be
mm.
distributed amongst those that need it the most.
Yeah. Means
Um,
tested, yeah.
means tested. And if you want to serve the country, then you can do so at the minimum wage.
Yeah, well, it depends on what their duties are. If their duties hold any weight or if it's of any significance, then the salary would reflect the duties. That's what I would say. That goes with any job.
Yeah,
You know,
but the
I
point
won't
being
go.
is when you're serving a people, you have to be of service to them. It's just basic math, but
Yeah, of
you
course. Yeah,
can't be living in palaces
yeah,
when it's your job to make sure no child goes hungry.
mm, yeah,
Do you see what I mean?
yeah.
Because look, we could we could take democracy somewhere new tomorrow. Not that there's many places left, but we could find another country with oil or gas or resources or gold or
that,
diamonds or
that
whatever.
that we need. Yeah.
Yeah. And want to go visit them.
Mm,
And then thousands and millions of people die. And then we come back with all these diamonds. And who do they belong to? Like,
mm.
are the widows getting them? Are the orphans getting them? This is the problem, isn't it?
Well, this is it. You see, even through history, the history that we're taught in schools is heavily distorted, and there's a veil across the brutal realities of our British history and colonial past. And if people were educated, with facts rather
Mm,
than biased or distorted views of our historical background, then they would understand. Hang on, we are where we are now, not through sheer hard work, honesty, integrity, morality, and ethical,
yeah.
all that kind of good stuff, but because we went around pillaging other countries, took over, got their natural resources or any resources, and left them with crumbs. And
Yeah.
we
Basically,
that's literally what we did.
the PR is fantastic.
It's amazing.
Of
I
any
would say
firm,
our PR is fantastic.
yeah, of
Yeah.
any firm to exist in the world right now, the royal family have fantastic PR
Mm,
because there's no way you can look at their past,
yeah.
the blood on their hands,
Mm,
the pillaging, everything else, and think, yeah, that's my queen, that's my king. They represent me and whatever, whatever. Like, they're the only ones that can say, yeah, but that was yesterday. And that was
yeah.
before we changed
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine any other, whether it's a royal or a dictator or anybody, Hitler?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Hitler, having obviously lived out whatever he did
Mm,
and then said, nah, that was a different time, at that time, that's how we used to do things.
mm,
I'm not like that anymore.
mm,
And then forward on the reign to his children,
mm,
who have been brought up and grown and have all those same values and ethics and everything infused in them, and then they just sort of they adapt on the outside a little bit to what they want the world to see,
mm.
but the reality is it is what it is, isn't it? Megan can probably tell us a little bit more about that. I'm not saying she
Well,
will.
they did an interview with Oprah Winfrey, didn't they?
You know what? I've never seen it.
I
I've
haven't
heard
seen it
about it,
either. I haven't
but
seen it either.
I think
Apparently,
from
they
what I know, I think she hinted. She
yeah.
wasn't really
Well, there
saying.
was apparently some racism that went on, and I don't know what else went on. But these are the glimpses that I caught up through, main headlines from somewhere or another. I didn't actually catch up on the interview or what was said.
Mm,
But yeah, there are like people like Megan who will have had an insight, like a deep insight as to how they live, and they chose to leave. I guess it would be a bit ridiculous for Kate and William to choose to do the same thing when they're next in line for the throne. But yeah, then there are questions surrounding the behavior of the monarchs when Diana died or got killed, and whatever happened after, during that time. It's all a lot of, what it's like they're just celebrities now, and I don't see the value of paying a family 100 million pounds a year, when that could be used towards relaxing or helping people going through austerity.
It's more than that,
We
though.
got That's just a
It's
year's expense.
it's
But then there's
yeah.
the billions of pounds which are going to go through the
This is it.
rebranding for having King Charles in place now, and everything ongoing.
And more than that, also is the wealth that they hoard
Mm,
that
yeah.
people need today.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that could save lives right now as we speak.
Mm,
Somebody, is deteriorating and fast. There's so many people out there.
yeah.
They're sitting on this wealth
Yeah.
for who and
Yeah.
for what,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
that's when you can appreciate or at least understand or sympathize with somebody that says, "Not my king."
not my king. And on that note, I think we will call it an evening, because we have been live for an hour, and we could, as always, there's no stopping these conversations, is there? What was the next topic, Ali? Do you remember what it was? Um, we have actually this year put together, well, this season we've put together the topics beforehand, so we will share them with you as time goes on. But keep tuned. This is our very first episode of season 4. And just as we mentioned at the beginning, this is the platform where we talk about what people think about, but sometimes they just don't want to say it. So we'll get into trouble for you. We'll have a chat about business. We'll have a lot of banter.
Banter's banter.
And sometimes we go beyond and way beyond. But for now, this was the first episode of season 4. I hope you, well, thanks for those of you who have been commenting and liking and sharing and watching throughout. And inshallah, we'll see you this time next week on Tuesday. Over and out.